Raider Nation, what's good? Jesse Merrick here. Welcome to another episode of the Silver and Black Sports Network podcast. The Raiders are on the bye week, but the show goes on. There's always plenty to talk about. It's the NFL. It never sleeps. And today, we are analyzing the Raiders from a betting perspective with our homie, Matt Perrault. You see him each and every week. Now, before the season started, the Raiders' win totals were around that 6.5 mark. We dissect whether or not there are 4 to 5 more wins on the schedule for the Silver and Black to see if they can actually eclipse that mark. We also look at how things look for Ashton Jeanty and his rushing touchdown totals coming out of the bye week as well. Does that number hit for him? And just an overall look at the Silver and Black and what needs to change for them coming out of the bye. As always, Matt has some great insight, and he really dives into it and doesn't pull any punches. And he also offers up his best bets end of the weekend slate of games as well. So without further ado, let's get it rolling and dive into another week of Raiders Rounders with our guy, Matt Perrault. All right, Matt, it's week 8 of the NFL season. The Raiders on our bye. Thank goodness, I think, maybe. I don't know. Give us all a bit of a break. But with that, before we dive into the whole slate and everything this weekend, let's kind of rehash what happened, the game against the Chiefs, okay? So you come in, you took a money line. Obviously, the Chiefs go ahead and win, but you were saying, you felt comfortable with them with a pretty big number. I think you had said if it got up to like 13 or 14, start leaning Raiders, which is logical. Then they go and lose 31-0. A wild game, just a no-show.
It never got that high, so I think it was, the Raiders were a team that at least some people in the market thought they might have been able to keep it close. But when you lose 31-0 and your opponent scores 31 points and you run 30 plays in the game, that is a mismatch. That is a embarrassment that you don't normally see in the NFL. And I know Raider fans are upset, and they have a right to be upset. I think the organization is upset. They're embarrassed about the way things have, played out. But you have a quarterback who has thrown 10 interceptions so far through 7 weeks. And you did not do enough, in my opinion, to prepare for the possibility of Geno Smith having a really rough season. Because the Kenny Pickett move didn't make a lot of sense to me. And there's nobody else right now in the pipeline that the Raiders can look to and say, okay, why don't you give XYZ a shot to see what they look like with the offense? So you have Ashton Jeanty, and I push back on people who are saying the drafting of Jeanty was a huge mistake. I don't think it was. I think Jeanty is a player that you have a chance to draft a generational talent that can be part of your organization for several years. You can go and do it if you're really high on him. And Jeanty's got 3 rushing touchdowns and 2 receiving touchdowns. It's not his fault. I don't put any blame at his feet. The offensive line hasn't been great, but the quarterback play just hasn't been good enough. So if you're looking for a finger to point at and say, hey, the Chiefs, you laid an egg, fine. What else happened? Well, the problem is you've got a guy who's throwing too many interceptions, and sure, he's completing 65% of his passes. But when you have a wide receiver, your number one target, continuing to say, I want out, that's not good for the organization. That's not good for the locker room. So there's just a lot of bad things going on, and I hope that they get it corrected during the bye, not just from an X's and O standpoint, but just from a mentality standpoint. Like, what's the team's thought going forward? Because when you sign Pete Carroll and you sign Geno Smith, you're not playing for tomorrow. You're playing for now, and it hasn't played well.
Yeah, no, it hasn't. And just with the Jacoby thing, I will say, he has handled it well. He did, go 7 weeks before really saying it again. And he was asked, and he's been pretty good about all that stuff. I think locker room-wise, I think it's fine. But there's no way that it doesn't weigh on some of the guys wondering, is he going to be here? Is he not? So that November 4th deadline is going to come really slow, I think, throughout this time over the next couple of weeks here for the Raiders. I want to dive into a little bit more just kind of season as a whole. And I had the conversation yesterday. It's look, and I don't think it's all on Geno, but 10 interceptions. If he throws 5 interceptions, you cut that in half. It is a totally different look for this team. Also, some of the errors on special teams. Defense has taken its turn, letting down at times as well, giving up some really big plays. This team is not as far away as they look from having, a decent record, maybe 3-4, 4-3. Not to make excuses or anything, but it's just you look at it on paper and watching the games and stuff, and there's a couple games where it could have flipped the other way. Obviously, it hasn't. We talked about it at the beginning of the year. I believe the number for the Raiders in terms of wins totals was right around that 6.5 range we had said. And usually that's about tracks for them over the years. I think we had both said take the over on this team, right?
Mm-hmm. I thought,
how do you?
Yeah. Look, I had the Washington game as a win. I had the Chicago game as a win. I thought they would have 4 wins here heading into their bye
Yeah.
because the second half of their schedule after the bye is not easy. I mean, the NFL did them no favors. If they can't beat Jacksonville coming out of the bye, they've got Denver on the road, a loss. They have Dallas at home. It's a loss. Maybe they beat Cleveland. They can probably hang with the Chargers on the road, just given the history between the two teams. LA won here, so maybe they win there. So maybe that's 3 wins, and then we're sitting at 5 wins. And then we have Denver, Philly, Houston, a 3-game stretch where I don't think the Raiders win. Yeah. And then the Giants come to town before Christmas, and they end the year at Kansas City. I mean, maybe the Chiefs don't need that game, so maybe they punt on that, and maybe the Raiders win there. But I don't really understand. If you're telling me they're going to have 8 wins or even 7 wins at the end of the season, I don't see 5 wins on that schedule the rest of the way for the Raiders.
No, I don't either. And I was one of the folks that said I had him at that 8, even 9 win mark. I'll be honest, before the year started. And like you said, I think we all thought that Gino and Pete were going to raise their floor, and that clearly hasn't been the case. So it's going to be tough sledding for him to get to that mark. And look, I don't care how low anybody was on the Raiders. There's no way that they thought that it was going to look this bad, through the first handful of weeks of the season for them. So real curious to see how they come into the bye. Like you said, that game against Jacksonville is going to be real pivotal. It'll tell you a lot about how this season is going to go, which is crazy to say in week 9. But that's a big opportunity for them right there. And so you'd like to see them come out, with a little bit of juice in that one. Speaking of other bets that we took, at the beginning of the year here, Ashton Jeanty, the number for rushing touchdowns was at 6.5. You mentioned it. He's got 3 rushing touchdowns now. The only problem is he's also got 2 receiving touchdowns. You were saying you would have loved if those were another rushing touchdowns. You'd be feeling pretty good right now. How you feeling about Jeanty reaching that 6.5 total there?
I think he'll still get there because I think they're going to play him the whole year. So I think there would be some level of concern about whether or not they would sit him down or limit his carries. I don't really think that's going to happen. I don't think they have much of a choice but to give him the football and have him be the bell cow for this offense. So, I mean, Pete Carroll might lean more into the running game as of what happened with Geno Smith than not. So I still think we'll get there. I still think we'll get to 7 rushing touchdowns for Ashton Jeanty, but I really want to see the passing attack step up. I want to see Brock Bowers get healthy. If Jacoby Myers is going to stay with this football team to incorporate him more into the offense, there's been, if we were in, let's say we were in Philadelphia or say we were in Chicago and not Las Vegas, the heat on Chip Kelly would be so intense right now.
It'd be wild.
And because of where we are in Vegas, and because people, look, we're not a very harsh media market. We don't have people who are going on TV every night and eviscerating the offensive coordinator for the play calling and what has happened here. And this, a guy who had a reputation. I'm from Boston, so I've covered Chip Kelly at UNH all the way here now to Vegas. I've seen his entire career that he's supposed to be an offensive genius. And this offense has been in reverse. And when you score 0 points against your arch rival on the road, there has to be some type of heat on this
and
offense.
it's the highest paid offensive coordinator in the league too,
So, and there's not a lot of heat on Chip Kelly. You don't walk into the barbershops or the coffee shops or the diners here in Vegas and hear people saying, fire Chip Kelly. What is this offensive coordinator doing? Our offense can't do anything. We lose 31-0. How is this possible? So he's very lucky, I think, to be where he is because there isn't that level of scrutiny coming down on him. And there should be, frankly. So I'm very curious to see what changes that the offense looks like coming out of the bye week. And what does Chip Kelly do going forward? Because him and Pete are tied. And it feels like both of them could be one and done if this keeps going the way it's going.
I mean, look, if it keeps going that way, I think there is an argument to be made. I don't think that's going to be the case because I think Mark Davis realizes, we can't just keep firing these coaches. There's got to be able to let somebody lay somewhat of a foundation. But yeah, look, the fact that they're 2-5, and if it does look, if the next half of the season looks as bad as the first half has, I think it's fair to have that conversation.
And what's Brady's influence on this, right? I mean, how if Tom has been running this operation and Tom is the guy who ultimately is sitting in the booth with the headphones on and making the decisions football wise going forward and had a big influence on both Geno Smith coming to Vegas, Pete Carroll coming to Vegas, Chip Kelly coming to Vegas, what's Tom's opinion as to how things have gone and how does he see it? Does he think, okay, it's just year one and don't worry about it, we're fine, let's worry about next year? Or is it going to be, hey, we need to win, we invested all of this money right now, the Aces just won their third championship in 4 years, why can't we be translating that success onto the NFL football field? And why are we looking at a team of veterans that is not performing? I mean, the Max Crosby stuff was so loud all week, and then it finally got shot down, and the Raiders met with him and said, hey, we're not going to trade you. But yeah. I mean, Dallas fans thought they had Max Crosby coming in to save their season. So there is something going on here internally as the team is trying to figure out what direction it's going to go.
Is that also, just as an aside, not the most Dallas thing in the world? Oh, hey, we need a pass rusher. Wait, what the hell did you just do? You just traded one away.
Yeah,
I get the financials and stuff, but
the
Micah
Parsons thing. I mean, look what he did last week for the Packers. It was, he was tremendous. So yeah, I mean, I get the idea. People are ripping Jerry Jones because he made a tomorrow decision that impacts the team today. And he likes the decision. He thinks he made the right choice. He thinks ultimately he'll be proven correct. So far, it hasn't looked right for him, given what Dallas's team looked, because they're basically one player away. Their offense maybe is the best offense in the NFL, and their defense can't stop anybody. So they need a pass rusher. So now they're out there trying to, again, mortgage the future when they could have just paid Micah Parsons. So whether or not Jerry Jones is playing four-dimensional chess, I don't know. But right now in the short term, he has lost the Micah Parsons story.
Yeah. And for what it's worth, I've had some conversations. I've been told that the Cowboys indeed did not reach out to the Raiders. So, yeah, conflicting reports. I've seen some of that out there as well, but some folks that I talked to said that nobody has actually reached out to him. I think.
But did the Raiders meet with Max?
They did, and I think that's more so just to quiet everything around him and reassure him that, like, hey, you're our guy. Because, like, let's be real. And I actually said this on Twitter. Like, anybody that's been around the team knows that they are not trading Max Crosby. Like, he is Mr. Raider in every way possible. Like, yes, it's bad right now, but he's been around for some really bad years. He's always kept the faith. And I get this whole, like, hey, let's finally let the guy go do his thing, whatever, blah, blah, blah. But, like, I don't see why they would trade him, because yes, they want to win now, but they also know it's taking longer than what they initially thought it was. Pete's actually admitted that, up on the podium before. And so I think, like, you trade a guy like him and then you just are completely blowing things up and resetting altogether. And like this organization already learned from the whole Khalil Mack thing. They got lucky and ended up with a Crosby, but like, yeah, I just don't see any world where they would actually trade him unless somebody offers some insane package, which the Cowboys aren't going to do.
Yeah, and I also think that there's going to be a conversation about tanking. And I think there is a logical, fair conversation about what you could get as a top 5 pick next year, and to pair up with Ashton Jeanty and say, okay, so you took Jeanty last year, this coming April, you take a quarterback, and there's going to be several quarterbacks in this draft that you very well might have an opportunity to grab a onto. Look, I'm a Patriot fan. Drake May wasn't the first quarterback taken off the board, but Drake May is lapping the field right now as to the 2024 draft. You could talk about Jaden Daniels if you want, but the numbers throwing the football that Drake May is putting up in his second year is dwarfing what even happened last year with Jaden Daniels. He's not as electric as a runner as Jaden Daniels, but he's good enough. So you don't have to have the first pick in the draft to find a very good quarterback. You just have to have the right talent eval and find a guy that fits your system. So the question I've always had when you hired Pete Carroll is like, okay, how much influence is Chip Kelly going to have on the drafting of players going forward? Because if Carroll's out after 3 years, then most likely Chip Kelly is out after 3 years. And you've drafted all these players to fit a Chip Kelly offense when a new guy's coming in. So I don't mind them winning 4 or 5 games, and being a team drafting in the top 5. It's just you cannot miss on next April's draft. You've got to hit.
Yeah, no, I mean, you have to for sure. And then there's also an argument to be made about like evaluating this previous draft class and what they've gotten out of it and all this different stuff. But yeah, I'm real curious to see how the season ends and what the draft looks like for them. I hate that we're even having the conversation and the words draft are even coming out of our mouth in week 8 right now, because obviously that shows just how bad the season has been. But this next half of the season is going to be real interesting for the Raiders. And I am so curious to see what the conversation is like over the next 10 weeks and all of those things, what it really looks like for them. But having said that, they are on the bye. So let's take a break from the Raiders for a second here and dive into, some of the games, the slate of the weekend here, because Raiders Rounder still goes on. Even though we don't have to pick for the Raiders, we still want to get your analysis on anything and everything from the weekend coming up here. And there's some, let's be real. We talked about it before we got going. Not exactly the most exciting slate of games in terms of football fan. Like we were saying, I'm finally at a point where I'm like, all right, cool. I can sit down and watch some football. And then I look at the slate and I'm like, I don't want to watch any of these games.
This is why gambling exists, because if you aren't putting money down on some of these games, there's no real reason to watch some of these games. Yeah. So this is a very good weekend to be betting.
Yeah, so make sure you get your pocketbook ready. Start taking notes. Mac's about to drop some knowledge on this one for you. We'll start with San Fran and Houston. The Fighting McCorkle Joneses taking on C.J. Stroud and company. They come to this one as 1.5-point dogs, huh?
Yeah, I really don't know what to make of this Texans offense, because I really do like defensively what they have done. And at home, they've been a really good football team. But San Francisco I don't know what Robert Saleh is doing, but he's doing everything right. Like he's finding guys off the street and just chucking them and having massive impact in the secondary for this 49ers team. I like the 49ers. I still think they're the best team right now in the West. And I think that they, even with all the injuries that they have suffered, they just have culture. And I think as a Raider fan, when you watch the 49ers, I know it's a sore subject because they used to be sharing a city, but it's you look at that culture of the 49ers, and next man up is a saying. It's a cliche, but that's what the Niners are. It's just next guy up. And George Kittle will sacrifice any offensive passing numbers to go and block for Christian McCaffrey and allow McCaffrey just to dominate on the ground. And I think that same thing can happen here against the Texans, where they just run the ball and they pick up first downs, and they just an efficient game. Won't be pretty, but I'll take the 49ers plus the points.
Yeah, well, and that's the thing too. I think, like you said, this is one of those teams in the 49ers, as we kind of weave our way back into a Raiders-centric conversation here. One of the ones that they just are responding through injuries, and the Raiders have had injuries, and people pointing to a team like the Niners that have been able to figure that out. Right. You go and even look at Joe Flacco coming in off the street, for the Bengals, and coming in and having the performance that he had, so that's the stuff that frustrates fans. So very clearly it is possible. It's just a matter of you got to be able to coach them up. Like you said, what the hell is Saleh doing? What's he feeding them? I don't know, but it's working, and it's been impressive to watch for sure. As we keep it pushing along here, here's another one, a divisional rivalry right here. We got the Giants and the Eagles. The spread is 7.5 points. How do you kind of wrap your head around it? Do you think that fits, or what's your take on that game?
Jalen Hurts at home is 28-4 straight up as a favorite. Okay, he's 28-4. Eagles are not losing this game. Yeah, Eagles are not losing this game. The question's going to be obviously the number, right? 7.5. How high does this number going at the time of taping? This number is currently 7.5. I would rather it be 7. If it comes back down, I'd prefer 7. If you want to buy it down, you can buy it down if you want, but I mean, the Eagles are dominant over the Giants. I mean, they lost. They have not lost consecutive games to the Giants outright in the same season since 2007. They have, prior to what has happened here, they are 28-8 straight up against the Giants since 2007. They have just completely owned the New York Giants. I don't trust a rookie quarterback in Jackson Dart on the road. And in the wake of what just happened to them in the fourth quarter, giving up 33 points to the Denver Broncos and losing a game that everybody thought they were going to win, it is Eagles or nothing for me. I'm not taking anything with the Giants. Points, no. I mean, you want to lay the points with the Eagles? Go ahead. Do not take anything with the Giants.
Yeah, well, speaking of that team that came back and scored 33 points in the fourth quarter, which is ridiculous, we'll jump back to the division for the Raiders here. Cowboys and Broncos. The Broncos coming to this one favored by 3.5 over the Cowboys. As you said, the Cowboys' best offense in football right now. What do you think happens in that game?
I think there's a letdown. I think Dak and company goes in there and gets the win. I would say Cowboys money line is a good look on this one. If you go back in history and see teams that have trailed by 14 points or more and have come back to win their previous game, They're only covering at a 43% clip over the last 10 years. And when they've trailed by one possession or more entering the fourth quarter, they're just 12-30. That's 29% against the number. So I know the Cowboys have really struggled in Denver. They're 0-7 over their last 7 games. But that Denver offense, I think even the Cowboys might be able to stop that Denver offense right now, given what they have done. I don't know what the defense was in the fourth quarter. I don't know how you're dropping 8 in coverage and saying, we don't think you can score on us. And then Bo Nix gets red hot and they go there and score. I think the minimum play is take the points, take the Cowboys plus the points at right now 3.5. But I think you got to sprinkle money line on Dallas. I think they may come back and get a W here. And look, if the weather's good, it sounds like it's going to be decent in Denver on Sunday. Give me Dallas.
Yeah, October is a good time of year in Denver for sure, especially I guess it's late October now at this point. But I'm curious too, just because this is the biggest total of the week that I'm seeing here, 50.5 points. That's a lot. Like you said, Dallas's offense.
Yeah, it's all about Dallas's offense, right? I mean, and frankly, the Dallas defense, which stinks. I mean, Dallas defense is absolutely god awful. So, Bo Nix is 12-1 straight up as a favorite in the NFL. So, a lot of people are looking at that this is the get right spot for this Broncos offense. I don't hate it. I mean, I think the Broncos win. The Broncos are scoring 30 points, 28, 30 points. So the game most likely goes over if the Cowboys are going to be in the game or the Cowboys win the game. It's just a tough total to get into given what we have seen here for the Dallas Cowboys and for the Broncos. On the road, last 2 years, Dallas is 7-5 to the under on the road. So they're a home over automatic. On the road, though, you got to be a little bit more careful with Dallas.
Got a little bit more weary. Okay, interesting. Yeah, and speaking of some big numbers here, Tennessee and Indy squaring off. The spread is 14.5 points. We know the Titans are bad, but do you think the Colts are able to cover that?
I have no clue on this one. This is your Moneyline Parlay special. This is your Survivor special. This is the Colts are winning this game. Okay, I cannot see, but divisional games are so wonky. The dead cat bounce didn't happen last week. I didn't think it was going to happen last week, frankly, because of Mike Vrabel. But maybe this is the week that the Colts, that the Titans rise up because of firing the coaching staff and getting rid of the Callahans. Cam Ward is a player. He's a really good talent. But last week, the Colts, they're my number one team in football. I in my own personal power rankings, I have the Colts number one. Going to Los Angeles and beating up on the Chargers and winning by 2 touchdowns, my goodness gracious, this team is playing at a very, very high level. And Daniel Jones at home,
crazy.
I mean, a part of me says it's 14 or nothing. Lay it with the Colts or stay away or just use it as a money line parlay piece. Don't take the points because who knows if the Titans are going to be in this game or not.
Yeah, and also, too, just as an aside to explain how wild the world can be at times, the fact that the words Daniel Jones at home just came out of your mouth, as in, like, feeling good about it.
Oh, yeah.
tells you all you need to know about the crazy universe we live in right now.
Yeah, more than feeling good. I mean, Daniel Jones is the best quarterback in the NFL under pressure this season. If you pressure Daniel Jones, he is the best passing percentage of anybody. It doesn't make a lick of sense as to what he has done, but he's playing at an MVP level. The last time the Colts closed as a 2-touchdown favorite or more was back in 2020 against the Jags. Like, it's been a while since the Colts have been this big of a favorite.
Yeah, it's just insane because that just goes to show you that, like, nobody knows anything. From year to year, things can change so much. So it's just wild. So that's why I laugh sometimes. I don't know, when people get hypercritical over folks like us talking about certain things and all that. It's insane. Yeah, and what he's been able to do has been insane.
We aren't Madame Cleo. I mean, it's
true.
Nobody knows this stuff. We're trying to bet on human beings doing. Just because a human did it before doesn't mean a human's going to do it again in the future.
Yeah, no, agreed, 100%. And it's just wild. That's why it's like that's why sports are so great too, though, because like you never know what you're gonna get. Having said that, let's close it out with the Monday Nighter. We got the Commanders going to Kansas City to take on a group of Chiefs that just looks like a machine right now, especially after that game against the Raiders. Patrick Mahomes has been on another planet. Obviously, Jaden Daniels not playing in this game. The spread's 12.5 points. How do you wrap your head around this matchup that, again, probably entering the season was like, ooh, this is going to be a fun one to watch. Now, as you go in here week 8, you're like, maybe it won't be.
Yeah, I think the under is the best play in the game. I think under 47 is the best play in the game. It opened up at 50 and a half. It's been bet down to 47 already. And I still would go all the way. I mean, I probably wouldn't play it under 45, but I don't think Washington's going to do much with Marcus Mariota moving the ball on the road at Arrowhead against the Chiefs on Monday night. And on the flip side, I do think that this offense, I don't mean to completely disrespect the Raiders, but I didn't take a whole lot away from the offense for the Chiefs against the Raiders. I don't think it didn't change my opinion of where this Chief offense is, like it has with a lot of people. Like, this is the best team in football. I don't think the Chiefs are the best team in football. They may have the best quarterback in football, but this offense still needs work, in my opinion. And I think the Commanders will be able to slow it down a touch here with Daniel Quinn, but I don't think they'll have enough to win the football game. I don't know if I want to be laying double digits. Primetime dogs have done really, really well. So I'm not as I would say you can sell high on the Chiefs here and take the points. KC wins. Commanders probably cover, but I'd rather bet the under 47 and just see kind of a slobber knocker, low scoring football game at Arrowhead.
Yeah, that's exactly what everyone wants to watch on Monday Night Football,
exactly.
right?
Yep. With the Chiefs, too,
Buckle
right?
your chin strap.
Yeah,
exactly what the Chiefs do. Seemingly they can win it anyway. And just to bolster your point, too, on that one, like, let's be real. Like, I think the Raiders' defense is better than what they've shown. But at the same time, they've given up 30 or more points in 3 quarters 3 times out of their last 5 games, if I remember right. So, haven't looked great in that regard. So, yeah, look, that's a fair opinion to have. In terms of, like, the Raiders' defense and how good the Chiefs looked against them and all that stuff. So, yeah, I think it's fair. Having said that, I think with his full slate of arsenal of weapons, like, Mahomes is just on a different planet right now. No matter who he's playing, I personally think. So I'm curious to see what that one looks like.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of things going on. I think there's a lot of interesting things going on in Kansas City that we don't have answers to at the moment, because the offensive line's playing better. The defense has been very good, obviously. You're going to see this offense, ebb and flow depending on who's playing, but they're still a dink and dunk offense. And so I think as people figure that out, and everyone's like, oh, because of Worthy, they're going to take the top off the defense, and okay, now they're going to get Rashee Rice and they're going to throw deep balls. Okay, the deep ball went to Travis Kelce. Like, that's who they were throwing deep to with these 2 guys there. So I don't know if they're going to be able to Andy Reid has really changed his offense. The Chief offense, they just try not to hurt the defense. Like, this is a team over the last 3 seasons has been led by the defense, and that's why when the Eagles go up to that big lead in the Super Bowl, it was over, because the Chiefs just don't come back on people. They don't have that offense like they used to. Who's to blame for that? I don't know, but this is like the overreaction special of the week.
Yeah,
I think when it comes to the Chiefs, like, they're the best team in football. Okay, I disagree with you. We'll see who winds up being right. The Chiefs are really good, but they have 3 losses and they're still on track not to win the division. So at the time of taping, we'll see what the Chargers do on Thursday night. But I'm not as high right now on the Chiefs. Shocker, I'm a Patriot fan, so I'm not as high on the Chiefs as everybody else at the moment.
Hey, Raiders fans don't hate that take either. I don't think, you know what I mean? Even coming off of that game, so I don't think you're going to make any enemies there. You might wear the Chargers cap on the show, but, you got to match the fit, You've been consistent with that each week. I know we've got you on the show. With that, Matt, as we close it out, as always, tell the folks where they can find you and what you got cooking.
Daily Juice Podcast, if you guys like daily picks on everything with the NBA, the NHL, football, obviously heavy with college and NFL coming up this weekend. The Bostonian versus the Book is the long form Monday through Friday show. Everything can be found at Sports Talk Matt on Twitter X.
So, Matt, as always, we appreciate the insight. Have a good one, and we'll catch you next week. Always a good time chopping it up with Matt. Even if it's a bad slate of games as a viewer, a football fan, there's still money to be made if you do play it right. And Matt has been pretty good this year, so if you do get in on the action, good luck. I hope he can win you some money. In the meantime, though, guys, that is all we got for you on today's show. It's the bye week, so we're keeping this one a bit shorter than usual. We got to take a break as well. We're taking the weekend off, as the team does too, so we will see you again next on Wednesday in that edition of the podcast. And as always, we make sure that you do please check us out online at silverandblacksportsnetwork.com, and do subscribe to our free Raiders newsletter, and also like and subscribe to this podcast wherever it is that you guys are listening to us. If you like what you heard, hit us with that 5-star review and leave a comment as well. You guys are always so great about doing that. The comments are always off the charts. I appreciate you guys, and the interaction means so much to me. As always, though, we do thank you guys for watching and listening, however it is you're taking us in. And in the meantime, you take it easy, enjoy the weekend, be a football fan. Just take in the game. Hopefully your fantasy football team wins, and we will check back in with you on Wednesday. Have a good one.